Hello everybody. Hello to everybody in the room, some of my closest personal friends and fans. It's great to see a lot of young faces. I have to see, I come to CPAC, I see a lot of boomers. I see a lot of people with the funny hats going on. A lot more of those than MAGA hats, I'll just say that much. So I'll start off by saying, look, it's me, it's Patrick Casey. We've been banned from CPAC. It's Faith Goldie, she's been banned as media. And look at the kind of turnout that we have. The people that are here, we're young, we're cool. The people that are going to, the Mike Cernovich party, the people that are going to the Will Chamberlain party, bunch of old weirdos. So I have to say, for the people watching at home, it's a very solid group of people. You can't see them. We don't want Jared Holt to dox them, but they are here. They are cool. You might have seen the class picture the other day. But so, if you've been following my antics on Twitter, I've been having a bit of a rough time here. I'm sort of an undocumented attendee at CPAC. This is, like Patrick was saying, we have 3 events about Israel. We've got 5 events about big business. We've got 1 event about immigration. Fascinatingly enough, they somehow made that also about Israel. So it doesn't seem like they cared about undocumented immigrants until a little guy named Fuentes showed up to CPAC without the proper badge. So you might have been following that. But I have to say there are 3 major contradictions that I've noticed about this conference, and I'll tell you why that's important. So the first one to me, which really stands out, and this has been made plain, I think, by a lot of people on Twitter, even Michelle Malkin said this during her speech. You see people like Van Jones. Van Jones was a black Democrat on CNN. He is a speaker here. He's a headlining main event guy in the ballroom. Ann Coulter, Tucker Carlson, not so much. You look at the blacklist. Me, Patrick Casey, Faith Goldie. Who's not on the blacklist? Jared Holt, Christopher Mathias, literal Antifa, Huffington Post people. Jared Holt is the perfect example to me. Jared Holt writes for a little publication called Right Wing Watch. If you're not familiar, Right Wing Watch is a little organization which is run by People for the American Way. People for the American Way is funded by George Soros. So why is it you've got all these boomers that come out here and they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, but they come out here every year and they say everything that's going wrong in the country is George Soros. And who do they find sitting next to them at all these events? Jared Holt, funded by George Soros. So that's a contradiction. How many panels do we have this year on tech censorship? How many boomers are up in arms complaining about how, conservatives are being scrubbed away in the college campus and offline and everything else? And yet, who are the biggest censors here? I think me and people like Patrick Casey would be more welcome in certain Democratic events than here. I know Democrats are more welcome, censors are more welcome here than we are. Last year, Google sponsored this event. How can you be against tech censorship and take money from Google? I think it really beggars belief. And so we've got a lot of contradictions here, things that don't really make sense. To me, the biggest and most fundamental one, the most striking and obvious one, is that at the end of the day, myself, Patrick, Faith, we're banned from this conference because we stand up for white identity. In other words, we stand up for the people that voted for Donald Trump. Now, it's fascinating because Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, all these other characters, Matt Schlapp, they will come up there on the main stage and tell us that what's wrong with America is identity politics. Really? It sounds to me like the real problem is white identity politics because, you'll notice you have black leadership summits, you have Hispanic leadership summits. How many conferences, how many events did they have on Zionism? What is Zionism but for Jewish identity in the strongest sense? Benjamin Netanyahu, one of the strongest allies of the president, just allied with a party that many people in the media say is analogous to the Dixiecrats in Israel. So that identity politics is allowed, but not ours. So we look at these 3 contradictions. We look at Jared Holt and George Soros. We look at identity politics. We look at tech censorship. And what we find is that conservatism is a bankrupt ideology. The conservatism of the baby boomers has no moral core. It's not coherent. And the reason for that is because the GOP and the ideology that it represents is not there to serve their constituents, the people, the voters, the citizens. The GOP is a transactional party that serves the donors. And you know that because the way that this entire conference was set up, all the events, all the issues, all the guests, was set up at the behest of the people that are paying for it. The Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, Who do you think cares about whether we have, some major tax provision cleared or some major regulation? Is that really great for the common man? Do you really think we care about things like lower gas prices? Now, that's really great for big oil, which gives a lot of money to the GOP. I'm really more concerned about health care. I'm really more concerned about the prices of consumer goods for families. I'm worried about the fact that if you look in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, you can't raise a family anymore if you don't have some $100,000 degree. I'm concerned about that. But you don't see those issues here at CPAC because the people are not funding CPAC. In fact, it's almost completely transactional, where in some cases you see sponsors, they put up something like $10,000, they get so many minutes of airtime. That's exactly what it's become. And it's a shame, and it's a scandal, and it's a disgrace. And what this represents in a larger sense is a perversion of the Donald Trump revolution. In 2016, we said that things were going to change. Things were going to turn around. We were going to reject the false siren song of globalism. And what we've seen is that people like Matt Schlapp and Mercedes Schlapp, they rubbed their little hands together, and they said, oh, that sounds really nice. We love this enthusiasm. Donald Trump, why don't you come aboard? Why don't you address CPAC? We're on the side of Donald Trump. We want to make America great again. And they say that in their rhetoric, but they have not changed one bit. Mercedes Schlapp, she is in the White House right now. You want to hear a little story? Do you remember the funding bill that was passed 2 weeks ago to fund the government after the big government shutdown? You remember the funding bill that expanded catch and release? The funding bill that gave immunity to illegal aliens that could be potential sponsors of unaccompanied minors. Basically, the worst immigration deal in the history of deals. Well, there was a little charity called the Angel Moms that came up to the White House, and they tried to get the president's ear. This is a little organization where everybody in there is a family member of somebody who's been killed by an illegal immigrant. American citizens killed by illegal immigrants. Donald Trump said during the election he would never forget them. Well, the Angel Moms, they went up to the White House to protest this horrible spending bill because it would open the floodgates to all kinds of illegal immigrants. They were shut down by none other, and the president didn't even hear that they requested a meeting, by Mercedes Schlapp, the wife of the person who runs this entire conference. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? This movement has gone off the rails. Every person that you see speaking here, every person you see who has a badge, to me, they are suspect. These people are here because they are not talking about what's really happening. And so I guess the question at this point is, how do we move forward? Our best hope, and this was a total anomaly, was Donald Trump. Our entire future, we made contingent on this $10 billion man who decided out of a clear blue sky that he was going to come down the escalator and say that Mexicans are bringing drugs and crime and rapists and everything else. How do we move forward when that's been totally co-opted, totally controlled by all the wrong people? To me, I think it's pretty straightforward. Zoomers, the younger generations, we understand what's happening. It's not cool to shill for Israel. Have you noticed that all these alt-like people, Will Chamberlain, all these other characters, they don't have any organic following. I had a meetup last night. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing, and I'm not like some big famous guy, but we got a pretty substantial turnout. A lot of young people, a lot of excitement. Faith Goldie, Patrick Casey, they're doing their own activism. There's excitement, there's energy, there's young people. And the reason for that is because it is not cool to shill for big business. It's not cool to shill for Israel. Young people understand what's happening. They see the writing on the walls. They see that all around them, whether it's their parents, it's the boomers, it's the media, it's the government, they see fraud, they see lies, they see a society, a government that does not serve them, the people. And so the future is people like us organizing outside of whatever the hell this is. I won't be back here next year, Fine, I booked my flight, I got my Airbnb and everything. You denied my ticket, oh, boo-hoo. So be it. We won't be back next year. But like Patrick said, we're going to have our own thing. We're going to build our own infrastructure. And in 25 years, 50 years' time, when we're all grown up, we will be in the same position, and we will take our country back. Thank you.